Hey, welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to build the foundational knowledge that every single great operator needs. We're talking about starting from the ground up to really understand how to safely and efficiently control a plant. So let's jump right in. All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll nail down what a process even is. Then we'll get into the 4 key variables that you are going to live and breathe every single day. After that, we'll learn how to spot the crucial difference between things running smoothly and a problem that's just starting. We'll also get you familiar with the plant's maps, and then we'll wrap up with the most powerful tool you have, your own mindset. So first things first, before you can even think about controlling anything, you've got to understand the world you're working in. So what actually is a process? When you boil it all down, a process is just a controlled transformation. Simple, right? You're taking some kind of raw material, putting it through a series of steps, and turning it into a valuable product. But making that happen with the right quality, day in and day out, safely and without stopping, well, that takes control. And you, the operator, are the one managing that control. Okay, so if you're going to be in control, you need to know which dials to watch and which levers to pull. Let's break down the fundamental forces you'll be monitoring and managing every single shift. And here's some good news. You might look at a plant and think it is just insanely complex. But almost every problem, every single challenge you're going to face, it really just boils down to 4 key variables. If you can master these 4, you're taking a giant leap toward mastering the job. And here they are, your big 4: flow, pressure, temperature, and level. I want you to think of these as the vital signs of your plant. Your entire mission is to keep each one of these inside its safe, happy, and efficient operating limits. Let's dig into why each one is so important. First up, we've got flow. That's just how much stuff is moving through your pipes at any given moment. And it's a total balancing act. If the flow is too low, your whole process can get unstable and unpredictable. But if it's too high, you can literally start eroding your equipment from the inside out. As an operator, your tools for this are things like valves and pumps. And that's the key word right there, stability. If you have a steady, correct flow, you have a predictable plant. A predictable plant is a safe and efficient plant. It really does all start with flow. Next up is pressure. That's the force that's constantly pushing on the inside of all your pipes and vessels. Too little pressure and your process just won't perform the way it's supposed to. But too much pressure? Well, that's where things get really serious. That can lead to leaks or, worst case scenario, catastrophic equipment failure. Now sure, plants have safety devices, but you, the operator, you are always the first line of defense. You gotta remember this. Managing pressure isn't just about making the process run well. It is one of your most critical safety responsibilities, period. Our third variable is temperature. Now this one's a big deal because it directly affects how fast reactions happen and, maybe most importantly, the quality of your final product. If things get too hot, you can damage equipment or just plain ruin the product. And if it's too cold, things might not separate correctly, or they could even freeze solid. You'll be using things like heaters and coolers to keep it just right. See, temperature is kind of like a double-edged sword. It affects the physical health of your equipment, and it affects whether the product you're making is on spec. Getting it right is absolutely essential for both safety and for the business. And last but not least, we have level. This is simply how much material is sitting inside a tank or a vessel. If that level drops too low, you can starve a pump, basically make it run dry, and it will destroy itself in no time. But if the level gets too high, you're looking at an overflow, and a spill is a huge safety and environmental problem. So really, when you're managing level, you're playing defense. You're protecting your expensive equipment, you're protecting the environment, and you're keeping the entire process contained and stable, right where it belongs, right? Okay, so we have our 4 key variables. Now let's talk about what it looks like when they're behaving, and more importantly, when they're not. This is all about learning to read the mood of your plant at any given moment. It's actually pretty simple. Normal operation just means everything's humming along nicely. All 4 of your variables are sitting inside their happy designed range. Abnormal operation is that moment when any one of them starts to drift outside that range. Your job is to live on that border, always watching for that very first sign that something is starting to go off track. And you know, this is what separates a good operator from a truly great one. A great operator doesn't just wait for alarms to start screaming at them. They see a variable trending in the wrong direction and they act before it becomes a real problem. That kind of early smart action is exactly what prevents major incidents and expensive shutdowns.
So you know what to watch for. But when you see something happening, how do you know where to go or what to adjust? Well, you can't navigate a complex plant without a map. And as an operator, you're going to rely on two essential ones. On one hand, you have the PFD, or process flow diagram. Think of this as the high-level Google Maps view of your plant. It's perfect for learning how the major pieces of equipment connect. But for your day-to-day grind, you'll be using the P&ID, the piping and instrumentation diagram. This is your detailed street-level map. It shows every single pipe, every valve, every instrument. This is the tool you'll use for troubleshooting and tracing lines when you need to know exactly what's going on. We've covered the variables, we've covered the maps, but the most important tool you have isn't on a screen, and it's not printed on a piece of paper. It is in your head. It's all about building the right way of thinking. This right here is the thought process of a great, proactive operator. It's a constant loop. First, you observe a change, maybe a pressure that's creeping up, or a level that's dropping just a little too fast. The second you see that, you have to ask yourself, okay, what's the consequence here? If this keeps going, what's going to happen next? And based on that answer, you act. You make a small adjustment now to stop a big problem from ever happening. It's all about cause and effect.
So let's bring it all home with this idea. You now have the fundamental building blocks, you have the 4 variables to watch, and you have the maps to find your way around. But this knowledge isn't just a bunch of facts. It's a call to action. The plant is now in your hands. So what are you going to do next?